Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. My name is Danny, and this is episode 165. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back. So, we have a real treat for you today. It's something we've never done before. We actually have a podcast interview with one of our clients. She is a fantastic client. She has been in vegan proteins sphere since 2019, and she has a really interesting story. Wendy Sellers is a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. She's been vegan for 5 years, and I'm really looking forward to her telling her story to you. One of the things that we wanted to talk about, one of the things that people say to me a lot is, what the hell is online coaching? Because it doesn't make sense to a lot of people. How can you train someone in the gym but online? And that's not really what online coaching is. Yes, we certainly write workouts for people. We go over all things pertaining to workouts, but it is so much more than workouts. And I really think that Wendy's story and her journey helps to illustrate that and explains why it could be valuable to somebody beyond just a workout or a nutrition plan, because anybody can look up a workout plan that will work. Anybody can Google a nutrition plan that if you follow it, it's going to work. So why aren't people doing it? Why isn't everybody just super successful with their nutrition, their fitness, their physiques, all of their performance goals? Why? Because there's a missing piece. And I feel like with regular in person personal training, most of the time, you're not really getting that piece. In person personal training, let's say you see somebody twice a week or even three times, like 3 times a week. You see them for 3 hours. That's 3 hours out of your week that they're with you. What about all of the other hours? What about your nutrition? How closely are they looking at? Are they looking at your measurements and pictures every single week to see where you're progressing? Are they talking to you about exactly where your mindset is and what sort of challenges you have coming up this weekend and how to deal with those challenges and coming up with a plan for you? I guarantee you there's some personal trainers out there that do offer this level of support to their clients, but most of them do not. And that is something that online coaching can do that in-person coaching cannot. Anyway, I do want to say that I'm putting a trigger warning on this episode. So if anybody is triggered by talks of disordered eating, eating disorders, calorie numbers, restriction, anything like that, this is probably not going to be the episode for you. And you are not going to hurt my feelings if you skip this episode. Protect yourself. If you need to skip it, go ahead and skip it, because there is a lot of talk about eating disorders in this episode. But if you are able to listen to it, I think it is a very inspiring story that's worth the listen. So without further ado, introducing Wendy. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Wendy. We are really excited to have you this is going to be the 10th year of the podcast, actually, which is crazy, but we have never had like a client on the podcast ever. So you are the first one. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here and be your first client interview.
Yeah, I think you're kind of perfect for this conversation for many reasons, actually. So, one of the things we're talking about is kind of like a question that we get a lot about, what the heck even is online coaching? Like, how could somebody possibly coach me in the gym, but online? What is the value of that? Why don't I just get a personal trainer like in the gym? And
Mhm.
you have been with us in some capacity for like close to 5 years
Yeah.
now. And you've done like all of the programs that we have. Uh, and I thought it would be very interesting to hear kind of your take on it. So before we get into it, why don't you tell our listeners like a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So just basically, I'm not afraid to say my age. I will be turning 45 in May. I am a meteorologist, actually, with the National Weather Service. I do a lot of research to operations work now, but I did do some forecasting earlier. So I am a scientist by heart. Um, and I have you know, interests in various things, but I've always been fascinated by fitness and nutrition for some good reasons and for some bad reasons. I have a fiance. I'm getting married in June. So I'm getting married to my fiance, Mark, in June. And we live here in the DC area with our cat.
Awesome. Awesome. So first of
Mhm.
all, congratulations. Very excited for the upcoming wedding. Um, how long have you been vegan? I think tell us a little bit about your vegan like story, I guess.
Yeah, sure. So it's kind of funny if somebody had told me, I guess I have to say, like 7 to 10 years ago that I would be vegan, I would have laughed in their face. I never ever thought that that was going to be my journey. And then just kind of out of nowhere, I got a book in late January of 2019 called The Green Print, and I read it, and I decided the next day that I was going to go vegan. So my vegan anniversary is February 1st, 2019. So I am 5 years vegan now. And I kind of was one of these, I know a lot of people, they tend to do like omnivore, then vegetarian for a little while, and then they'd go vegan. And I just kind of went straight vegan all in.
Hmm.
And then, another kind of interesting piece is I get asked a lot of times, like, oh, why did you become vegan? And I mentioned that I'm a meteorologist, so environmental science is one of my passions. So one of the driving motivations for me to become vegan was really the environmental impacts piece. A little bit with the health. I know there's no silver bullet with any kind of way of eating. But then the animal welfare piece came just a few months later, and that's really solidified my resolve to be a lifetime vegan.
Yeah, that one sneaks up on a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like once you see it, you cannot unsee it.
Yes, I tell people that if you become vegan because of the environmental reasons or the health reasons, there's always that option to just have a little bit, and it's not going to really make a big difference. Just a little bite here, a bite there. There's not going to like make or break the environmental impacts. But when you get into that animal welfare piece, like there is no just little taste here and there. Like it becomes an ingrained part of your moral values. And so that's one of the reasons why like it's just not an option for me to ever go back to eating animal products.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. People are like, "Oh, how do you resist the temptation of this or that dessert at a party?" And I'm like, "Cuz it's just like not food to me
Yeah.
anymore." I don't I mean, it looks delicious, right? Like if it was vegan, then we'd have a problem, but because it's not, I don't know, doesn't
Yeah.
do anything for me.
We talked about that just like 2 weeks ago. I was in a situation where like all day I was going to a restaurant and then I was going to a friend's party and I had forgotten my vegan snacks. And I was so mad at myself. I was like, how could I forget my vegan food? I'm going to be starving all day. And that was like the little light bulb moment of like, yeah, but like eating the non-vegan food at the restaurant or my friend's house, it just wasn't even an option. Like I was pretty much like, understanding of the point that like I was just going to go hungry, like because
Hmm.
that just like it's not food to me anymore, even though, like you said, that it smells like it even kind of looks like it. I think you
Hmm.
related um, it to like looking at plastic fruit or something in a
Hmm.
bowl. It kind of
Yep.
looks like food, but you're not going to put it in your mouth. Like it
Right.
doesn't look tasty.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Well, we're psyched that you're vegan, and I like that you're vegan for all of the reasons, really.
Mhm.
I think the super interesting thing to me and probably to our audience is kind of some of your history with exercise, with food, with your body, and I mean, this is a huge topic, right? And how it was and how it's sort of morphed over
Mhm.
time. So I'm not going to share anything that you are not going to share. So I will let you say whatever you want on this topic.
Yeah, so my friends will understand that I'm a complete open book. I've always been a believer, especially just kind of just going through some of the stuff that I've gone through, that, you know, being honest about like your struggles and challenges helps you connect to other people and helps other people feel a little bit more connected in the world as well, especially if they are facing the same challenges. So, you know, I don't mind being very upfront. And I actually consider it like a wonderful opportunity, because this is, you know, I've been dealing with body image and food issues for the better part of, you know, 25 years. And I've always wanted to be able to, you know, provide some kind of support or outreach to those that have been through it as well. So it's actually kind of a nice opportunity to be able to talk a little bit about it. I haven't really had that chance before. So for me, I never really had body image issues until I went into college. I never exercised or was into sports when I was a kid. I was just kind of naturally skinny. I was, you know, that wasn't really interested in competitive sports or athletics, but I just had a skinny body. I have dealt with like generalized anxiety since I was a kid. And so when I was in school, a lot of like my anxiety meant that I had kind of like a nervous stomach and everything. And so that kind of kept me from really caring about food very much, or, you know, having to worry about weight issues or anything, because I just kind of stayed small because I just didn't eat much, especially when I was in social situations or out in public. But when I got into college, like my whole world opened up, and I got you know, I actually kind of really got happy and more comfortable. And I met like a lot of people and was having a great time my first year of college. And I gained the freshman 25.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the first time for me, and I want to, you know, I was 18, 19 years old, that my body had really changed. And it was the first time that I ever had to kind of sit there and think about like, oh, okay, so I'm having to buy different clothes, and, you know, what am I going to, how am I going to kind of deal with this situation? Because I've never exercised, never even thought about food. And so I started working out a little bit in college during one of my summer breaks, just kind of simple jogging. I mean, I couldn't even jog one lap at that point, and I started working it up into being able to jog a little bit further. And when the next semester started, one of my classmates commented on how much weight I had lost, and that was like the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, there's a lot of, when I think about like what drives, you know, eating disorders, I think there's a lot. There's you know, social cultural pressures, but then there's also you know, control issues and
Mm-hmm.
everything. And so my second year of college was really stressful with classes. And so I think just a lot came together in that I kind of started to have like a white knuckle grip on my eating and my exercising to maintain that weight loss that I had after my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
And it really spiraled out of control. So as school got more stressful, like the disordered eating behaviors you know, got more out of control as well.
And you would say this sort of like leans into the restriction side and the over
Yes.
exercising side.
Yes, yes, definitely. So I was anorexic. That was
Mm-hmm.
basically where I was at. And this was, you know, by my sophomore year, I had, you know, dropped the 25 pounds plus.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it fairly quickly. And then it became a bit of like an obsessive thing where I was very controlling over my food. I mean, I doubt I was consuming more than, you know, 500 calories a day. So it was interesting because I had never really thought about eating disorders, known anybody really with an eating disorder. And so I really didn't kind of think about what was going on. It almost took like a year to kind of
Isn't
hit
it
me.
isn't it wild? Like I always think this is really
Mhm.
wild. You don't have to know
Mhm.
anything about eating disorders. They
Mhm.
just happen sometimes, and it really I feel like requires the perfect storm for it to
Yes.
happen. Like it has to be so many factors come together. And then you said like a trigger moment on top of it. But it's just crazy. It's not like, oh, you hear about somebody doing something and then, oh, I'm going to try that too.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like, it's just the human psyche and the way we're all like so different, but so the same is really fascinating to me. That's all. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
absolutely.
Continue.
No, no, absolutely. And I think that's what's interesting because when I hear stories about women that have, had issues with disordered eating, there's a lot of different, I mean, some of the women, struggled with their weight when they were younger and got criticized for their body. And that was their trigger for an eating disorder. For me, like nobody had ever commented on my body. It really became this pursuit of perfection and control.
Mhm.
Um, that drove mine with that like trigger moment of that one comment on my weight
Mhm.
loss. Um, so,
So when
just,
did you realize like this was a issue? When did you figure out this was a problem?
um, I started to have dizzy spells when I was sitting down. And
Mm.
I kind of knew that like I was using this as a tool for coping with my anxiety. But it was really when some of the physical aspects started showing up. And I would be in class or behind the computer and I would kind of feel like I was going to start to black out.
Mm.
And that, and I had after, a year or so, when somebody is going through anorexia, or at least for me, you can't have a social life. Everything changes. And so I was pulling away from a lot of people. I was, not doing a lot of the typical things that people would do in college, like go to parties and, go out to eat and all that stuff. So I kind of started pulling away. And I had some friends, like I had moments even going into grad school, because this was a full college experience for me that had like interventions for
Mhm.
me to get better. There was a one day that my boyfriend at the time and two of my friends like ceremoniously threw my scale in the dumpster outside
Mm.
of our apartments.
Yeah.
So I think it was a combination of me kind of like realizing that I was having some physical side effects and like my friends and family starting to really worry about me because of just how I was pulling away.
Well, that's
Uh,
really awesome that you had those people
mhm.
around that noticed and cared enough to do anything about it, really. Of course,
Yeah,
other people can't fix it, right? You have to
no,
decide you want to change.
exactly.
So, was it shortly after there that you started making an effort to improve, I guess, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, I mean, it really, I still struggled quite a bit through grad school. I think the moment where I really felt like I turned the corner was actually after I got my master's degree. I moved out to California, started my whole life over again. And I had like some amazing friends. I was starting to make amazing friends in California. I was making my own money. I could do stuff. I wasn't, tied down to studying all the time. And I realized that if I was going to have friends, I had to loosen my grip on this.
Mhm.
And there was a moment where I was working. I was a shift worker at that time because I was forecasting. And two of my friends came in at the end of my shift and they were like, "All right, we're going to go out. We're going to go have some fun." And I had like eaten all my calories for the day. And I was just like, "No, I'm sorry. I can't do
Mhm.
that. I'm
Mhm.
done for the night." And they were basically like, "We're not leaving until you come with us."
Right.
And I think that was that moment of like, I really do have to make a choice. Like, am I
Mhm.
going to have friends and have a life, or am I going to stay at this low of a weight and
Mhm.
sit at home feeling cold all the time and everything? So that was really a turning point. And I think that's where I I can I can say that like I moved beyond like the clinical anorexic behaviors.
Mhm.
And through all of this, I did a little bit of exercising, all cardio, of course. To
Of
because like
course.
I just need to burn calories. Like
Mhm.
how many calories can I burn to like make all the calculations work for me? And it never was much. It wasn't,
Mhm.
maybe like a 20-minute jog or, a little, cardio video that I'd play for 20 minutes. Um, but the exercising was just mainly calorie burn,
Mm-hmm.
cardio. A lot of my weight was controlled through like just the eating.
Yeah. You know what I really love that you just said was, at this point, I was no longer like clinically anorexic,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that a lot of people think that an
Mm-hmm.
eating disorder is like an on and an off switch, right?
Yeah.
You either have it or you don't have it. You're either sick or you're recovered.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that way. Like, you may one day no longer meet the criteria for the formal diagnosis, but you can still have lots of
Mm-hmm.
those behaviors, thoughts, feelings, etc., that are still problematic and disordered. And but it kind of sneaks under the radar, right? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yes.
So tell me, so I feel like this is kind of, well, I feel like you were further out of it than that when our paths crossed, but somewhere in that ballpark, I feel like our paths sort of crossed. And
Mm-hmm.
where would you say you were at that point? Like, what was the years, I guess, in between here?
In between where like I considered myself moving away from the clinical. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, that was probably 15 years ago, 15,
Okay.
20 years ago. But
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it's been like a bit of a, like you said, varying levels. Like there's been times where like I would still have disordered eating behaviors. If I'd get really stressed out, I would start restricting. It wouldn't be to the extreme that I did in college
Mm-hmm.
or when I first moved to California, but it would be there. And then if I got happy and things were stress free, maybe I'd gain a little bit of weight back and I'd release my grip. And that has basically been the majority of my life since then. So if like I moved away from like the clinical
Mm-hmm.
anorexia and say like 2005, it's
Mm-hmm.
like 2024, like most of my life since then has been on the spectrum of normal eating and kind of stress restriction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been like you said, the voice in your head that tells you you need to be as small as possible, you should always be eating as little as possible, like that's the goal, is how little can you eat and get by. That voice never went away.
Mm-hmm.
It's always there. And for me, one of the first steps in healing was like hearing that voice, recognizing it, and ignoring it, even if it
Yes.
was hard to ignore it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that we're talking about, like, in your story specifically, it's anorexia, it's
Mhm.
restriction mostly. Um, and you also mentioned you were quite thin and you can get, quite small. But there are so many other people that still deal with these exact same thoughts, exact same patterns, maybe like other things that are also disordered, binge eating, over exercising, some other things I won't dive into here, but they can also be a totally normal weight. So, I mean,
Yes,
that really slips under the radar.
exactly.
And I just want to put that out there, because if you're like out there listening right now, like, I see you, I get it. I know that these people exist because I talk to them every day.
Mhm.
So I just think
Yeah.
that's an important thing
Mhm.
to mention. Um,
Absolutely. Mhm.
but
Mhm.
yeah, that wave of kind of more or less
Yeah.
disordered, right?
Mhm.
And like, while you were in this, like, what did you want? Like, if you saw a better, quote unquote, better future for yourself, like, what would that have looked like, 5 years
Mhm.
ago, 7 years ago, or something?
Yeah, I mean, for so long, my goal was just be as small as possible, eat as little as possible. But I think underneath it all, I wanted to look fit. I wanted to look strong. I wanted to look like somebody that had the discipline, and the commitment to working out. I wanted to look like somebody that, you know, had control and everything. So there were these physique goals that were kind of like the traditional, like, body image. So I wanted that, but like underneath it all, I just wanted to feel like I was in control around food.
Mhm,
I wanted to kind of have a plan.
mhm,
And that's what I really struggled with, is just kind of not knowing if that was ever achievable, and just feeling like I can't have both. Like I can't, I can't be okay and have a good relationship with food and have a great physique. It's
Mm-hmm.
one or the other. Like either you're going to have intuitive eating and do the cupcakes and cookies, but you may not have the body that you like, or you're going to have like this wonderful physique, but you will have to like white knuckle every experience that you have with food.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I thought the future was going to be like, was okay, there's this, hope that you can have it both, but I just didn't see that that was something that was achievable for me.
Right. Well, I think that's, I mean, like a pretty fairly healthy goal for someone
Mhm.
to shoot for. So when we did cross paths, I looked it up just to see exactly when it was. You mentioned it before we started recording, but July 2019,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
you signed up for our fat loss challenge.
Yeah.
So tell me about that, because I
So that,
vividly actually remember going through your
uh-huh.
questionnaires and going through your pictures and going, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that would probably be surprising, right? So here's this person that's always been in the small body, and they're like trying to do a fat loss program. Um, so I'm a great example of like going vegan doesn't cause you to lose weight. It's not like this diet physique miracle. I had actually, when we moved into this house, I'd actually gained some weight. I mean, not much, 10 pounds or so. But it wasn't like intentional weight gain. It was like a little bit of too much partying with the neighbors and stuff like that. Too many happy hours, eating chips and salsa and everything. And I had put on like 10 pounds, and I did not like the way that I was looking. And, my cardio hit combos wasn't helping me, get back to where I was before. Um, so here I was vegan. Didn't cause me to magically lose 10 pounds. And I really didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so even though I live in a very diverse, largely urban area, I actually don't have any friends that are vegan. So nobody can accuse me of going vegan because it was the cool thing to do and all my friends are doing it. Like I am the only like actual vegan that I know.
Mm-hmm.
In person. So I didn't know how to eat. I didn't know how to choose good foods. Like I knew macros and definitely knew calories. Like I can rattle off the calorie count of almost anything after 20 years of varying levels of disordered eating. But like as far as eating vegan, there's so much conflicting advice. Like there's like, the people that say that you don't have to have any protein, or, oh, eat whatever you want. Like you can eat whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And you're going to have the perfect body. And so I was just kind of floundering a bit. And so I heard about you and Giacomo actually through another podcast, and looked you guys up online and saw that you had this fat loss program. And yes, I wanted to lose fat a little bit, but I also just needed some help.
Mm-hmm.
I knew at that point that, I was in my 40s. I'd put on the 10 pounds. And before, when I was in my 20s and 30s, if I put on like 5 or 10 pounds, I could lose it in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't great.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that like, I've gained 5 pounds. That'll be gone in 2 weeks. I'm just going to cut my calories in half and do
Mm-hmm.
extra cardio. And even like everything I had tried for like a year or so hadn't worked.
Mm-hmm.
And then I became vegan. That wasn't doing anything either, which was okay. That wasn't the full reason, but I felt lost. And so what
Mm-hmm.
I really liked was like, this was like a whole new approach. I had a personal trainer for a few years, maybe about 2 years, when I was living in Charleston, South Carolina. And it was a time where I was trying to, like learn a little bit more about exercise rather than just cardio. And what I liked about the personal trainer at the gym, he was working at the gym that I had joined, was he was like a 50-year-old ex-bodybuilder. And
Mm-hmm.
so here, this tiny female coming in and saying, I want a personal trainer and I want him.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was because I did not want the typical trainer that's like, get a flat stomach and a great booty and like do
Mhm.
tons of like I couldn't like with my body image issues, I couldn't do that. And I was actually struggling, like I didn't know if I even wanted a female trainer because
Mhm.
of problems with comparison and things like that. So he taught me the basics of lifting, and that
Mhm.
was really awesome. So I had like a bit of a foundation of lifting for about a year or two, but then when I got up kind of on my own, I moved back more into the HIIT and cardio.
Mhm.
So when I saw like vegan proteins and I saw the fat loss challenge, I was like, this is my opportunity to kind of like relearn some of this and like
Mhm.
maybe change what I'm doing, because the HIIT and the cardio that I had gotten back into just doesn't seem to be getting me to the physique that I want now.
And I know that we have a very specific type of philosophy and way that we approach things, and it was probably very different to the types of approaches that you took in the past. Like, what was that kind of like to almost sort of like relearn a lot of that stuff? Were you hesitant? Were you resistant to it? And like, what was it like?
You mean like as far as like training types or nutrition, or a little bit of both?
I mean both, but mostly nutrition, like
Yeah.
the our
Mhm.
philosophies around nutrition and, how big a deficit should be and refeed days and
Oh yeah.
deloads and all of that stuff.
Well, the nutrition, so as far as what has been most healing in my journey with like, this vegan weight training and nutrition, I struggle with saying bodybuilding because I'm like, I'm not a bodybuilder.
She does
But
do bodybuilding. She is a bodybuilder. You don't have to compete to be a
oh,
bodybuilder.
thank you. Um, and this is what's been most healing, and you know this, Danny, is like the true like perception of food as fuel. Like if you want to achieve this, you actually need to consume food, and um, you can and to me, like having like a fitness coach that's actually, I think one time you were just like, Wendy, did you eat all your food? And I love like that. To me just gave me the warm fuzzies, because it's just like to have a fitness professional actually like wanting me to meet my calories. I think you said like my macros are not like, hey, that's your top limit and anything below that's fine. Like that's your goal. So going
Mhm.
below it isn't winning.
Yep.
um, so for me, like the perception of food as fuel to achieve the physique that I want, that's been game changing for me. Um, and I just, it's been really interesting to be in a place where I'm like, I can eat more. Like, it's the end of the day, I have 200 calories left. I need to get those in, because if I want to
Mhm.
be able to lift heavy tomorrow morning, if I want to be able to build muscle, like I need to eat my food. So
Mhm.
the nutrition part has been really like that mindset's been great. And it's been kind of an oasis from a lot of like everything else that I'm surrounded in, because so many of the people around me and the women still have that traditional mindset of like the goal is to eat as little as possible.
Mhm.
That is my goal as a woman, is to consume as little food as possible.
Right.
And yeah, and to be in an environment where consuming sufficient food to be able to perform is just been so refreshing.
And I
Uh,
remember there was a period where we were walking your calories up and you
yeah,
were just like shocked, just absolutely shocked. Because this was like months and months and months of
yeah,
walking the calories up, and like only
mhm.
good things happened. Only good things
Yes.
happened from.
Yeah, yeah. And there's still there's a little bit of excitement, a little bit of apprehension when you walk my calories up. But when I was in my build last year and I was at, what I would have considered a deal breaker weight 10,
Mhm.
5 to 10 years ago. And to look at my body and be like, this doesn't actually look that bad. Like
Mhm.
I'm at this weight. This is the weight where I would have like cut everything out of my life, 10 years ago. And I'm like, I don't look that bad. And it's really just kind of the training and the macros and everything. But to be able to sometimes I look at the number of calories that I eat and I'm like, how is this working? Like if I were to tell one of my friends, like, I eat, 2,300 calories a day, it would blow their mind because of
Mm-hmm.
that 1,200 calorie ideal and everything that we have.
Yeah.
It's fun to
Mm-hmm.
be able to do that. Yeah.
So, okay. I know that you did the fat loss challenge. I remember looking at your stuff and I remember, I can't believe I remember this, but I remember sending you videos being like, so you don't really have pounds to lose. So
Yeah.
we're going to do more of a body recomp if that's cool with you. And you were cool with it. And then you
Mhm.
were, I think, maybe the first person to join our Muscles by Brussels program back when it was still called the Academy.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, which was awesome. But and then you were there for like a couple of years, I think,
Mhm.
doing occasional one-on-one consults with me. And then at the end of 2022, you were like, okay, let's do one-on-one coaching. Like, what was it that made you decide that was the right move for you? And also, like, what has it been like since then? Um,
Yeah, sure. Well, going into the academy or the Muscles by Brussels membership, like that was important for me after I did the fat loss challenge because like I didn't want to get lost again. And it was nice to have a plan and to have guidance and to have workouts and to know that I had somebody to reach out to because I was afraid that if I finished the fat loss challenge, had if I was back to my own devices, I would just kind of slip back into kind of this spinning my wheels, you know, kind of gravitating toward whatever like little pop culture trend was out there. So that's what I really liked about going into the membership program was I felt like I was still wasn't like, by myself and alone. Um, so the inspiration for actually going to like one-on-one coaching was just like I was having a lot of fun and I kind of wanted to just level up.
mhm,
And I think that I wanted I was really enjoying what I was doing. I was feeling like I needed a little bit more direction and I kind of really wanted this to become my hobby. I wanted to be able to kind of like own this. And so I felt like by going from like the membership to the one-on-one coaching, like I was leveling up, like I was taking this seriously.
mhm. And when you say this, you mean like lifting and
Yes.
pursuing getting stronger and building
Mhm.
muscle and um do you feel like that happened like when you made that shift? And were
Yeah.
you like apprehensive that maybe one-on-one coaching was like not going to work or it was like a gimmick or something because a lot of people think it's a gimmick.
Oh, no. Well, I think I had interacted with you and Giacomo enough over the past few years that I knew that you guys were the real deal and that you were, you had integrity. I listened to all the podcasts, and really kind of kept up with your messaging. So I had the confidence that it would work. I think what may have been my own fears is like, can I do this?
Mhm.
Can I make it worthwhile?
Mhm.
Like, and I think that's where it was. Like, I still, I don't want to waste your time. And so for me, it's just like, okay, if I'm going to commit to this, if I'm going to invest in this, like I'm definitely going to show up. Like this is going to be, this is going to be my thing. This is going to be my hobby. But I didn't think it was a gimmick. Now, I think one of the challenging things is, the workouts, like making
Mhm.
sure I'm doing the workouts properly.
Mhm.
And I'm in kind of a unique situation, but I mean, this kind of shows how flexible one-on-one coaching can be. I don't go to a gym.
Mhm.
I don't really have the time to because just the commute and everything. And then honestly, a lot of it's my body image issues and not even just with my body size. I just do not work out pretty. I don't, sweat a lot and turn
Mhm.
purple and everything.
Mhm.
I don't like working out around other people.
Mhm.
And I feel like I can be more focused when I'm on my own. So I've kind of over the past couple of years built my own home gym. And so there, I think one of the challenges is making sure, am I doing everything properly? so that like, I am getting the, the work that I'm putting in is, getting me the results that I need. And so I think that for that, that's a commitment for me to be recording what I'm doing, making sure it's easy to kind of, for me to stay focused on the nutrition side and just kind of be like, oh, I checked all the boxes on the lifting, but to make sure, like, am I doing the moves correctly? Am I progressively overloading and everything? And I think that's been working out well now that I'm very committed to communicating with you and showing you the videos more consistently. It's hard for me to do the videos because I look ridiculous at 5:30 in the morning working out in my basement. So
I mean, I think everybody looks a little bit ridiculous working out and doing their progress pictures and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But actually, that's a good question. Like, okay, since like, okay, you mentioned body image issues. We do pictures weekly. Now, some people say, I will not do pictures. That's fine. We will not do pictures then if someone does not want to do that. But you have done the pictures and
Mhm.
you have done like all of the looking at the scale and things like that. How has your relationship to your body and the
Mhm.
scale
Yeah.
changed since sort of watching that as data?
Yes, exactly. Well, kind of talking about the like the photos. Um, so one of the things that I do is I crop my head out of them. So it honestly helps me step back a little bit because if I have to look at them, like it's just I'm just looking at a body. It's not like, oh,
Hmm.
there's my face on there. Um, but one of the nice things is to have that very objective view of my body because I don't see the changes that are occurring as easily, or I get fixated on like one thing that I don't like. And so sharing the progress photos, going ahead and just taking my face out of it so it's a little bit more, anonymous.
Hmm.
It's helpful to have, a coach that's like looking at that very objectively and kind of knows what to look for because especially with like muscle building, you've told me like this is a marathon, not a sprint like a cut would
Hmm.
be. And so
Yeah.
the changes are very gradual over time. And they may be masked by the fact that like your just body's getting a little bit bigger. So
Hmm.
it's helpful to have somebody like point out what's going on because I certainly don't have the skills to do that. And I'm very susceptible because of my body image issues of fixating on like the flaws or what I think are the flaws and not noticing like the big picture changes. The scale's been another big thing. So there's a couple of philosophies out there about how to like handle eating disorder recovery. And one of the things that I really like about how your perspective on this, Danny, is that so often people that are recovering from eating disorders are told that the solution is to stop caring what your body looks like, stop looking at
Hmm.
the scale, stop counting calories and doing this and that. And that idea was always too much of a swing for me to
Yeah,
go.
I don't think it's very realistic. Like
No.
honestly, I mean, if somebody can do that, I think that would probably be a great solution for them. But
Mhm.
I think that almost everybody cares what they look like to some degree. So asking
Exactly.
somebody to not, especially somebody who's been very focused on it for a long
Mhm.
time, to just, oh, just don't care about that anymore.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to happen.
Yes, exactly. And so to be able to still be able to kind of care about what I look like, but do it in more of a performance perspective versus a like you have to fit into this ideal has been huge. So the scale is like one of the things that we've been working on is not letting it be so scary and looking at it as I'm a scientist. I work in data all the time. It's data. It's not like something that's attached to who you are or your moral value or something. And a lot of people are surprised that I get on the scale every day, even as somebody that's, recovered from an eating disorder. But it's one of the things that you've helped me realize is like it's a way of seeing that the scale can fluctuate from day to day. And it's not necessarily like a sign of something going wrong. And
Hmm.
to be able to just get on the scale and just be like up, I'm up a little bit this day, I'm down a little bit this day, and to know it's not always a trend, and it doesn't necessarily like need to you know, one day of the scale doesn't need to necessarily drive all of your decisions for the next week or two. Just kind of wait and see. And so it's been really helpful. And there have been times where I've gotten on the scale and I've been like, oh, I'm not okay with that. That was a big jump. And then it's just like, just wait a minute, just
Yep.
wait. And then sure enough, 2 days later, I'm back to where I was before.
Mhm.
Or when I was on the build, seeing the weight, the scale go up, but like having a coach be like, this is what we want. It's okay. Like,
Mhm.
this is good, was so helpful because that was really scary. Like I knew that I needed to have the scale go up to start building muscle because I haven't had a great baseline of muscle because I did so much cardio for so many years. So
Mhm.
I need to be able to be comfortable with a build to
Mhm.
be able to get that.
And I think
So
this is true for a lot of women, even if they were not like very thin to start. I mean, almost everybody is gonna need to see the scale go up to build muscle. And that is a hard
yes.
freaking sell for a lot
Yeah.
of people.
And to have a fitness professional telling you like this is what we want, it's okay. It's a little mind-blowing because you know, so I've lived in a world where fitness professionals are always encouraging that skill to go down, no matter who you are. It's like this cookie cutter approach to women of like, just always lose weight, just always lose weight, no matter what your
Mhm.
starting point is. And so it was so helpful last year. I mean, really that build was very healing in a
Mhm.
way, in so many ways, to be comfortable with the scale going up and knowing that that was like part of the plan.
Mhm.
And so having seeing the weight as just a way that we're measuring what my current goals are and what the progress is has been very helpful.
And then we did do a mini cut last year. So I think that was the first time. Yeah, it was the first time since you did the fat loss challenge, which wasn't really like a weight loss thing. But we did do a cut, and some people might be like, what? Why would you ever? So before I get into this, you mentioned like recovered from an eating disorder. Do you at this point in your life feel like you are recovered from an eating disorder?
Yes, I
Okay.
feel that I'm recovered, but I always put the caveat on there that the voice never totally goes away. You know, you can the voice is always there, but like I have a totally different perception on what I want now.
Hmm.
And so it's very easy to just silence that voice and be like, yep, whatever, and move on.
Okay,
Um,
good. I wanted to hear you say that because I don't want anybody to think I'm sitting on here like I'm some kind of god who treats eating disorders because I do not do that.
no,
Um, but folks that have body image issues or still have
yes.
some disordered eating habits hanging around or mindset stuff around this stuff, I think there's a lot that we can do on that. But we did end up doing a mini cut last year. And I want to know what that very deliberate, very planned out mini cut felt like compared to your historical ventures into weight loss.
Yes. Well, it was I was kind of curious as to how it would go because I was like, is this going to trigger me so that I'm not going to? But it was the mini cut was done in such a highly planned and deliberate way, and with guidance. So it wasn't me just being like, I don't like how I look. I'm just going to try to lose as much weight as possible. This
Mhm.
sucks, and then just and then it's like, what do you do when you're done, other than just keep losing weight? Um, it was so intentional, and I think that's what really helped. And it wasn't like, just a huge cut in calories and tons of cardio. It was a bit of a, decrease, and then we kind of waited to, it was like a wait and see how my body responded. And so I thought it was done in just a very like controlled and intentional way with a definite endpoint. And I think
Mhm.
that's the other key is, decades of my life was basically being in a mini cut with no endpoint.
Mhm.
So even when I moved beyond like the clinical anorexia, I felt like I was kind of just always trying to cut. Oh,
Mhm.
and but no, never knowing like what the goal was. And with
Mhm.
the mini cut, like we had an end date. So we were trying to just see what my body would do and how, yeah, I think for me, and, correct me if I'm wrong. I think part of the goal was just to show myself that in this bodybuilding journey or cycle, like I can pull whatever trigger that I need to get the results that I want. And
Mm-hmm.
so after been on like a moderate build, you prove to me that like, hey, if we need to like, show you the hard work that you've been doing, like we can do this mini cut and then you can see it. And
Mm-hmm.
that was what was huge, because when I went through the mini cut, like all of these like beautiful muscles started to just pop out. And it almost was like more inspiring for me to like keep pushing hard in the gym and like be more committed to the next build, because like my body at that weight, so I went back down to a weight that I had been, before,
Mm-hmm.
and I look completely different.
Right.
And it was awesome.
Yep,
And
that's exactly
um,
why we did it, was because I
yes.
remember as we were like going up with the calories and the weight was like slowly, deliberately, purposefully, but still going up. You were a freaking champ about it. You did it. You stuck to it. But I know there was a point where you were like, okay, I don't love this look right now. I don't want to have to get new clothes.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember telling you before we even did it, like, hey, when we need to get leaner, we're going to be able to do it. And I wanted to make sure that we kept that promise to you so that you could see that, yeah, it is possible. People think that if they start gaining, even in a good way, that they're just going to gain forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
And, that's learning the hows and the whys of nutrition, why we do things the way we do, I think helps people feel more in control, but not like in a neurotic kind of a
Yes.
way, you
Yes.
know?
And that's why I'm so fascinated with bodybuilding. I mean, there's a couple of philosophies in bodybuilding that, at least I've felt very comfortable with. And one of the is the idea that like it's a cycle. Like you don't want to be in a cut forever.
Mhm.
Just like you don't want to be in a build forever, but it's a cycle of like how you create this physique. And so I really like, I appreciate that. The other thing that I really like about bodybuilding is the philosophy of bodybuilding is really like this performance, this idea of performance and
Mhm.
strength and everything. And that's just something that in the fitness culture that I grew up in wasn't there.
Mhm.
And so I really, really enjoy the idea of like, it's okay to get bigger,
Right.
because that's making you stronger, and it's not
Mhm.
it's not a sign of like lack of control or something like that. Like when you are getting bigger, it is so that you are performing better. And
Mhm.
I know you guys have talked about this a lot on some of your podcasts about how you just feel better sometimes when you're in a build. Sometimes you
Yeah.
get kind of really big and you're like, oh,
Mhm.
but like
Yeah.
it is like you feel better, you feel stronger, you sleep better, you have more energy.
Mhm.
And that's just something that like you don't hear a lot of when you're well fueled, when you have good nutrition, like you're actually at your best
Mhm.
versus you're so skinny and you're eating so little.
Mhm.
But there's a comfort in knowing the process now. Like I
Mhm.
know that wherever I am in the process, like I can get back to any place that I need to. I have the tools and I have the
Right.
support.
And the mystery is like gone. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people see somebody with like a crazy physique or whatever, and they're just like, how is it possible? It's like, now you know exactly how it's
Mhm.
possible. It's like that cycle over and over, often for
Yes.
years, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, the last thing I want to talk about, because I know you only have a few more minutes here, um, is the week to week stuff that we do in our check-ins. Like, how do you feel like that affects your life and like your day to day? I know we do a lot of mindset stuff in addition to the training and the nutrition. Like, how does that change your day to day?
So well, I feel like sometimes you're like my second therapist. And so I feel so I, I'm I'm highly disciplined when it comes to like executing certain things. And part of this is because of my history with being, body image. So like getting my workouts in and everything, like I can do that. But for me, some of the day-to-day support that I need is the mindset stuff. It's making sure that, you know, I don't fall back into, getting freaked out if I've had a day where maybe I've fallen off of plan and trying to like skimp on my calories the next day. It's feeling like, I can navigate situations in which I might be challenged to, make good nutrition decisions or get a workout in if I'm traveling and things like that. So I think a lot of it for me is there's the getting the workouts assigned. That's great. It's having the macros assigned, and that's great too, and having the plan. But it's just trying to like just navigate the day-to-day decisions, the day-to-day challenges. So, some of the things that you really helped me with is when I've had a day where I've been out with friends and I felt like I completely was off plan, and I'm like trying not to freak out the next day. Maybe the scale popped up 2 pounds because of water retention or just, having some food in my belly. And I kind of, because of us working together, I feel like I have your voice in my head now saying like, you're fine. It's just one day. It probably is not that bad. Give it some time, let your body adjust. And so, I mean, honestly, for the first time in my life, even in my years of recovery, to be able to wake up the next day after a day when I feel like maybe I didn't make the best food choices and be like, I'm just going to get back to my plan again. Like, just, I'm going to eat my food and I'm going to get back on plan and it's going to be okay. Instead of doing that cycle of like, I ate too much, so now I'm going to restrict. That's, having that guidance, even on a week-to-week basis of like, just 2 weekends ago, I had some challenges with making some good food choices and everything. That's huge. One of the other things, and I hope I can describe this right for me, which was like an unexpected benefit of having, weekly coaching, is just feeling like I have somebody that's supporting me when I'm in situations where everybody else is doing things and I don't know, like, should I be, my friend is like not eating carbs today. A couple of years ago, I would have been like, maybe I shouldn't be eating carbs today. Or, my friend over here is trying intermittent fasting, or I'm listening to some podcast where some guy's talking about intermittent fasting. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should be doing that. To be able to bounce those ideas off of you, like, hey, what about this, is so helpful. But also just knowing that, like, when I'm in a situation where I might feel, maybe influenced or insecure about like my, what I'm doing and the decisions that I'm making in the moment, and be like, no, I have a plan. It's okay. Like, that's really helped my confidence. So if people around me are making food choices that don't align with my goals, or they're maybe restricting and I'm in a build, it's so helpful to just be like, nope, I have a plan. We have a plan. And it's okay. Like, they're going to do what they're going to do. But I have this plan and I have these goals. And if I'm worried about it, I can talk to my coach in just a couple days, and, I can make sure that I stay on track and get encouraged that I'm doing what I need to do. It's really helpful to be like, no matter what anybody is doing around me, like, I have somebody that's in my corner that's looking out for my goals and keeping me on my plan. And so I can really like not compare myself as much to everybody around me, because everybody else can be doing what they're doing. They have their own goals and their own plans. I've got something that's specific to me.
Right. And I feel like a lot of people do that on social media, especially. They scroll and they're like, oh, this person's doing this. This person's eating this many calories, this much protein. What if I did that? Like, I know that's how I started out in the fitness industry, was trying to copy what other people were like, not in the fitness industry, just as a fitness enthusiast, just trying to copy what other people were doing. And it was not good. But like you said, anybody can Google a workout plan that's going to work. Okay. Like, you can go to Google, type in workout plan for building muscle, get something. It will work if you do it. Same thing with your nutrition. Then why aren't people doing it? Because it's not just that. It's the support, it's the accountability. It's like, I don't know, I think kind of being tethered, like, because we all kind of like start to float away like a balloon after a while, and you need somebody like, nope, get back here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we're all human, so we kind of can get pulled into whatever environment we're in. I think the personalization is huge for me. If maybe that's a better way to put it. Like I feel like I have a personalized plan and personalized goals, and it keeps me focused when I have all of this other stuff coming at me from social media or from my friends or whatever. Like I know I have a personal plan and I know it works for me. A good example is like I joke body by bagels. I have a protein bagel every day. And when I have people around me that are like, oh, I can't, I can't have bagels or something like that, I'm like, my plan allows me to have bagels. My plan allows me to have chocolate. And I know that I can be eating all of this stuff over here. And though these people may be afraid of it, it's okay because it works for me. It works for my personal plan and my goals. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. It is very personalized because you're I mean, I'm having these conversations with you, but with somebody else, I may be talking to them about, okay, I need you to pay a little bit more attention
Yeah.
to what you're having. And like, I need you to take this a little bit more seriously. With you, I'm like, okay, I need you to take this just like a hair less seriously, and we're going to get better results, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that the personalization is really important. I really appreciate you taking the time to like sit down and talk to everybody about this. Cause I know a lot of it's like, I mean, you said you're an open book, but it's still vulnerable stuff to like put out there in the universe. But I guarantee you there's going to be people listening to this that can relate to at least part of what you're saying. And even just letting people know like there is another side, like there is a way through, is major. Because you
Yeah.
said, you said you're turning 45. Um, you spent 20 years, give or take, in this sort of mindset, and you still came out the other side and feel like you're, you know, reaching
Yeah.
that place of balance that you probably have been trying to find for a while.
Yeah. I mean, at 45 years old, to finally be feeling comfortable in my own body.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, it took a while, but it's there. And to be comfortable with food choices and to have a plan, like, and to feel like I've got like one of the best physiques I've ever had. Like, I think that hopefully that gives some people some hope.
Yeah.
It took a while to get here, but
Yeah. And it's not perfect, right? Like we all have off days where we
oh
don't
yeah.
feel like we're killing
Mhm.
it. I know
Yeah.
I do, but still to feel like a general sense of like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good actually, I
Yeah.
think is probably a
Overall.
far
Mhm.
cry from where your mindset was at, 15 years ago. So,
Absolutely.
well, I super appreciate you doing this. I know you're not like super active on social media, but some people might have questions for you.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
is there a way that they can reach you that you would be comfortable with if they did have questions for you?
Oh yeah. Um, yeah, I'm barely on social media. My Instagram account's just cat videos and vegan food.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've got it perfectly.
How about this? How about this?
Yeah.
If anybody has questions for Wendy, you can email
Yes.
them to coach@veganproteins.com and I will make sure that she gets them.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If anybody tries to reach me for social media, it could be weeks.
Yeah.
But yes, if they want to connect through you, I'd be like I said, it's actually quite an honor to be able to talk about this. And I've never in any kind of pseudo public forum told my
Hmm.
story. So I hope it's helpful and encouraging, and happy to answer any questions if anybody has them.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. If you have any questions, requests, questions for Wendy, anything, you can email us coach@veganproteins.com. If you are interested in one-on-one coaching, you can also email us coach@veganproteins.com. You can go to our website, veganproteins.com, check out the coaching tab, read all about what it is. And if you have any questions, just shoot us an email. We could chat with you about it, answer any questions that you have. Once again, my name is Danny, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.